Good morning, beautiful pond lovers. Have I got a day for you? I'm really excited today. I am off to the pond college. As you can see, I'm in the van, getting ready to go, just waving goodbye to the neighbours. And yeah, I'll snap back to you all when we get there. So I've just arrived. Got to go out and find Mark. And yeah, looking forward to today. So yeah, found them all. He's just might put the kettle on, but I've just nipped for a pee in the back of the warehouse, and look at this. Filters and pond equipment everywhere. It's going to be a good day. So I found him. We've had a nice cup of tea, been very hosting. But as I say, we're here today at the Pond College. We're having a tour, and you might recognise his face. I'm going to spin the camera around. This is Mark.
How are we doing?
He has a YouTube channel. What's your YouTube channel?
The Pond Advisor.
Pond Advisor. This is the dog. She's going to be following us and barking around. And yeah, Mark's channel, Pond Advisor. The link will be in the description. Does some fantastic videos, pond builds, water features, absolutely great. And he's going to show us around and talk to us a bit about what he does and what he gets up to here. So let's spin the camera around and we'll start in this corner. So as you walk through the gate, this is the first feature that we come to. And Mark's going to tell us a bit about what he does and what we're up to.
So this is it's a rainwater harvesting system. So it's a sustainable water feature. It's a great big huge underground reservoir. Water comes off of the barn into here via a 4-inch pipe. Just a false lid, and basically the water comes through that and it fills the basin within 20 minutes. Put that back down. There's 25 aqua blocks, and I'll show you what an aqua block is later on. But essentially it's a great big box. It's just like rainwater harvesting in a barrel, but it's just on a huge scale. The reason why we've got a water feature on the top, which is sort of like a modular thing, is to keep the water sweet. So if you have a stagnant rainwater butt at home, you might have mosquitoes or something in there, where when you've got recirculating water, then it oxygenates it, it stops it from smelling, stops it from stagnation, stops the mosquitoes, and also you can have a beautiful decorative water feature on the top. And you've also got fire elements. You can do, you know, this is a sort of like a playground. This has been in about 3 years now. It's due for an upgrade. We've sort of like not done much to it at all. There's a few weeds, but at the same time as it's sustainable. So yeah, that's the rainwater harvesting system.
Awesome.
Next we've got a sort of like it's a bit of a peat bog. It's more of a sort of like an experiment, just to see what grows in the peat. Lots of different mosses, a root. We give it a little bit of rainwater out of the rainwater harvesting system. And also we've got Maceracenas, which are carnivorous plants. And you're at the right time for a flowering Venus flytrap. So I don't know if many people have seen the flowers on a Venus flytrap. Lots of people have seen Venus flytraps before. Completely hardy. I've not done anything with this for about 3 years. The reason why I've got so many is essentially what I wanted to do is I wanted to buy a number of different hardy varieties and see which ones are hardy. It's quite an exposed site here, and they live and breathe by insects. So the insects come along and they basically fall down, and then the plant uses it, the nutrients. We do grow these in 100% peat and rainwater, and as long as you've got the peat and you've got the rainwater, they're fine. As you can see, they thrive. We haven't done much maintenance on these at all, but if you try and grow them in a different substrate and feed them or water them with tap water, they hate it. We have found that they grow on floating islands really well on ponds. So what you actually do then is have a floating island, put the peat in the floating island, put the Serensina or the pitcher plants on that, and it will grow no problem on a pond. So you can grow them in bog pockets. You'll see some later on in some of the other features.
First little pond we've come to. Look at these guys. Cheerios.
Yeah, honey Cheerios.
Absolutely. Mine like Cheerios.
Yeah, we had a kid come yesterday, and he was eating the Cheerios out, but he didn't like the fish food.
Got some cracking fish in here.
So I've hand selected all of these in Japan, not last January, but the January before, so January 2023. And then we come to a torii gate. One of the contractors, one of our customers, Olympian Water Gardens, who built a torii gate for us, and we're still yet to paint it, but it's a welcome to the water feature gardens, and we'll show you all the different water features through here. So these big urns are essentially fiberglass that we've had painted by a graffiti artist, just to bring the sort of like the theme in. We do sell these. These are sort of like recirculating water features or fountains, and this is the sort of like the largest one. There's 3 different types, and as you'll see a couple as we go around. This is the scalloped. On the right we've got some still water wildlife stuff. So essentially there's no filtration, no movement in these 3. It's essentially for plants or plant only. Snails, oxygenating plants, Vallisneria, which is sort of like eelgrass, and you see some flowers coming up. This is how they propagate and spore. Natural, we haven't topped this up at all, so you can see how much evaporation's going on with this. A little bit of a problem this year with magpies eating our red ramshorns. So we used to have a lot of red ramshorns in here, but we haven't had so many red ramshorns in here recently. You see there's a water boatman there, lots of Daphnia. So in these types of ponds, still water wildlife, you need the Daphne, you need the other stuff, so you might be able to see bits and pieces in there. With the reflection it's hard, I know, but essentially that's what stops it from going green, is all the different aquatic insects. There's a mite there, I don't know if you can see that. You see that growing along, water mite. I found a water scorpion in there earlier on in the year. That's quite a prehistoric looking thing. And then we've got a still water goldfish. We have got an aeration bubbler in there, and also we've got a net on because we had a heron that was literally giving these guys a real hard time, and it took them about 10 days to get more confident to come back up. I actually thought that the heron had taken them all. But these are all babies that have basically survived some of the other ponds. As you can see, that this is absolutely full of plants. We've just got the aeration in there, so it's just nothing else apart from the aeration, and that's really a case of making sure that they're okay. When they were hiding, I could probably take it out and they'll be fine. We've got too much plant in there, as you can see. It's really really taken over, but it needs a bit of TLC. But the goldfish, you know, you can see how many goldfish are in there. It's bonkers.
Certainly quite a few.
Yeah, and some shabumpkins as well.
Apologies about the wind today, guys. It's a bit breezy, but this is the lesser spotted dogfish.
Yeah, I'm sure that she wants to identify as a fish. Stand.
He was telling me earlier, this dog absolutely loves the fishies.
And a lot of the fish like her as well, and some of them are really, really confident and pull on her ears and pull on her.
They're literally all just swimming right in front of her nose.
Yeah, and underneath
even the little
her.
babbers.
She just wants to be in with them all the time.
How cool is that?
So this is the lockdown pond. Essentially I built it on my own with a machine. That stone in the middle is 3 foot deep, so it's a real big stone. 2 shelves, so we've got an 18-inch shelf and we've got a 3 foot shelf. A few koi and loads of babies, and a dogfish.
I love the waterfall at the back.
Very natural, very overgrown at the moment, but that's what it just helps with the naturalisation of it, really. And to our right, we've got a sustainable water feature again disappearing on a basin. So this is a sphere, number of different things we've had here in the past. And then you've got sort of like a weeping wall. We've even got a naughty dog. So we've got two naughty dogs, one Luna and then this one here. Lots of different water features all over the place. So there's a water feature for everybody, whether it's DIY or whether you're looking to emulate nature. It's more just inspiration. We just like to get things out so people can see, from fun, from small, all the way through to the big, which you'll see in a minute. This one here is Grace Falls. So it's the same size footprint as the one out the front that we haven't seen, but the stones are a team lift stone. So a couple of people building this, same footprint. You've got an Aqua Basin 45, which you'll see if you look over there, you can see the big black tank. That's the Aqua Basin 45. So essentially that's the reservoir, that's the size of the water underneath the ground, and it disappears, it gets circulated and then disappears into the basin. On this one we carried on with the Icelandic black pebbles to make it look like it was part of the lockdown pond. And what we found is people wouldn't walk across because they thought it was sort of like the stream, so we just put these planks of wood in just to make it look like a bridge, so it allows people to walk through. You've got a medium stack slate urn, so you saw the scallops as you walked in. This hasn't been painted, this is how it comes, green. And you can do lots of different things, but we've just literally put this on an Aqua Basin 45. So underneath the ground there's an Aqua Basin 45 with a pump in the bottom that sends it up. And the birds absolutely love this. We've got some Icelandic pebbles in the top just to dissipate that bubbling. You'll see a bubbling one in a minute, which is a different feeling. And we've got the spillway bowls. You can have a different combination. Again on an Aqua Basin 45, so the bottom one is set on the Aqua Basin 45, and then you've got the fire element at the top. We don't really put the fire on too much, it's just really a case of it's still in there. It would set the conifer alight, but and it's very windy, and in the day it's very, very hard to see. But essentially spillway bowls, and we've got smaller ones as well as these bigger ones. So these ones are 80 centimetres, and then we've also got some that I think are around about 40 centimetres now as well, which you'll see in a second. This one here is a pond that Luke and Stephen put in. So Luke's my guy and Stephen works for DJS Waterscapes or Landscapes in Birmingham. And essentially you've got a number of different things. You've got a skimmer on one side, you've got 3 decorative urns, and the dogfish loves to go in. There's no fish in there, but she just loves to get in. She just thinks that there's something moving in there. She obviously likes the frogs and stuff as well. And also you've got a patio pond that we've cut out a lip, so it emulates it's more of it's a mini wetland filter. So it's a bio bowl, as we call them. So that's the sort of like the filtration for this whole system. Lots of water lilies in there. Moving round to a pondless water feature that Freddie from Ecoscape Water Gardens built, and he's based down in Essex. And again, this is a disappearing waterfall, a standalone stream with a stacked slate sphere in the middle of it. When I saw him starting to build this and putting it in the middle, it was like, I wouldn't do that, I would put it back into the bank. But now, once it's finished, you can see it's a lot better. It's a 360 degree, so when you come over the steps, you know, you've got the element of that bubbling water, so you can see. Actually, we'll walk up and look at the lockdown pond from up there.
Being such a natural pond, I expect you get a fair few spawnings from there, don't you?
Yeah, there's a number of spawnings, and also we were wiped out. So last year he had an otter attack in September, but certainly, yeah, there's a lot of spawning going on in there. Very shallow pond, but this is the largest pond that you can build with one of our kits. It's 7 metres by 5 metres, and essentially it's a kit that you can buy. The only thing that doesn't come in the kit is the rocks, water, plants, fish. but everything else, everything that you need to build a pond with, all comes in there. So the liner, the underlay, the skimmer on one side, the biofuel, the biological filter. So we've got the mechanical filter over there, a single pipe that comes up and then through the biological stage, and it's a waterfall filter and a skimmer, which keeps the water crystal clear.
Even with a dog in there.
Yeah. And then we come to Charlotte's DIY garden. Charlotte's my wife. What we did is in 2019 we set up the distribution side of the business, and it was sort of almost like, right, what do we do with the DIY kits? Let's get Charlotte to build a waterfall. So she built a small waterfall out of the smallest waterfall kit that we supply, and also the smallest pond that we supply as well. And Luna thinks that there's still goldfish in there. She's always hopeful that she sees something in there. She's got a spot for every pond as well. Awesome. And then on our right we've got the floating Zen garden with the mist makers.
Oh, I remember you building this.
Yeah. We have had a problem with the moss wall. It dried out last year and we haven't really done too much with it. So it looks a bit of a mess at the moment, but certainly it's still really nice. The rake gravel, the fog I put in since Halloween last year. I dyed this all green for Halloween, had pumpkins all over it, one with even a fountain crazy hair. But essentially this is the floating Zen garden. This was built for me just literally to get out of the way, and I can just enjoy working in a space that's not necessarily about the fish, it's not necessarily about it's about the now. You know, you can relax, and when the wind dies down you can see that the mist actually hugs the water, and the water lilies don't have a problem with the mist, but when it's windy like this and it looks crazy.
It's a volcano.
Yeah. 2 pumps. You've got one that recirculates from a disappearing waterfall, and also you've got one in an intake bay that feeds a filtration system. Very, very low maintenance. All these features are low maintenance. You only have to sort of like clean the biological stage out once a year, and maybe the mechanical stage you know, more frequently, depending on what's going in there from a mechanical basis. We haven't got any fish in there. Again, the otters wipe these out, and we haven't really put fish back in. But there's lots of newts, there's lots of insect larvae in there. So you don't always need fish, but at the same time the fish do hold you a little bit more. You know, it's something to go and feed. It's sort of like, it's a bit of fun and games. Essentially you need to get the other stones up on the plinth. It's sort of like just a bit of I'm a big strongman fan, and essentially it's a case of I just thought, what can we do in the Pond College gardens? And this one here is just to be picked up with 2 fingers, and you can progressively move through the fingers and get it up on the plinth. And I haven't been able to do it with my little finger yet, but I can do it with that finger, but I can't do it with that finger yet. But essentially that's 25 kilos, so it's a big old stone going all the way up to 120. Only 2 people have picked up the 120 kilo stone and put it on the plinth. But you have to work up to it. So we've got one at 40 kilos, one at 80 kilos. A lot of people have done the 80 kilo stone, and then you've got the 120 kilo stone. Now we move on. If you stay here, you can see this is the NRG waterfall. It's completely different than the Zen. I'll go and switch it on, but it's designed really to be looked at from this distance.
Whee.
So this is more of a commercial water feature. It's a huge feature. You need a real big garden for this size waterfall. As you can tell, I'm not having to shout, but if we were to go right over there, then I have to shout to compete with the noise. But if you've got a big garden or a kitchen window, and you've got you know, like a bank, then this is sort of like the size of the water feature that you need. And the reason why, when we move this bank back, I wanted something in there that we could see from the gate to draw people into the gardens. So essentially a case of the NRG, if you say it quick, it's energy. So rather than rather than the floating Zen garden, which is all about calm, all about quiet, all about sort of like the Zen, think about now. This is NRG, which is essentially, say it fast, it's energy, it's inspiration, invigoration. You can go on an adventure walk if you want to go on an adventure walk where you go over the stones and walk all over it, and then you know, there's lots of different things. So it's interactive. You can see the spillway bowls. We've had 8 people build or work on this feature. We've got the spillway stone. The big stone is 1.5 tons, and that's sat on 2 aqua blocks. And then you've got 3 bowls on the top that are all spilling. But essentially it's a case of it's a large, sustainable waterfall, disappearing stream. The bottom part of the feature is actually my favourite sound in the garden. It reminds me of running a bath, but at the moment you can't really hear it because it's competing with all the other white noise. But what I'll do in a second is I'll turn it off and you'll hear what I mean about the running the bath. So how this sound's created is essentially you need air behind the water, and we're in the echo chamber now, so once it stops gurgling you'll hear that sort of like running a bath.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, which is a great, you think about, you know you're going to relax in a bath, and it's really a case. So what we'll do is we'll build one of those just sustainable, nice deep rumbling sound, so you can have a water feature purely for sound. A lot of people associate water features with making you want to go for a and it's not really the case. You don't want to go for a wee when you go to the seaside, you don't want to go for a wee when you're walking down the river, but a lot of the time when you hear somebody, or it's the same sound as someone going for a wee, then you get the association with going for a wee.
Absolutely.
Now we'll go round and have a look at the small stone garden. So this here I've made sort of like a section with the plants and the back of the floating Zen. This is the small stone garden. So essentially you've got no stone over 25 kilos. And this was inspired by a waterfall walking trip that we did in November. And one of the guys basically wanted to emulate a stream coming down the hillside. And as you can see, it's amazing. Again, a basin at the bottom. This is, rather than the aqua basin 45, you've got 2 small aqua blocks and a pump bolt. And I'll show you an aqua block in a second. How you get away with small stones is it's essentially, you know that this is man-made. You can see that it's man-made, but you could make this look a lot more natural with big groups of plants. So you can see there's a big group of grass, smaller group in the middle where it splits the waterfall. It's actually one waterfall, but we divert the water, and then a big group of grass again. So, and the bowls, just to add a bit, these bowls we used to sell these bowls sort of like 5 years ago. They're not as good as the ones that we currently sell. So the ones that came back or cracked, then we just literally put them in the gardens and have miniature water lilies in some. And you can see that they're real tiny little plants. But that's essentially the small stone garden. Now we'll go and have a look at Forsley Falls, which is a 35-foot long stream, and this was Aquatic Art Live 2 years ago in 2022. And on the Tuesday it was going to be 8 foot long, and then on the Wednesday it turned into 35-foot long stream. And as you can see, it looks very natural. You've got the serencenas, you've got the pitcher plants in bog pockets, where it actually has a wick that goes right down into the basin. This was led by John G from Modern Design Aquascaping. He's got a YouTube channel. He's based in Tennessee, and we use this feature to emulate that. You don't really need, yes, we're right in the full force of the sound, we're in the echo chamber, but a lot of people say I couldn't have this water feature in my garden because of the sound. It will disrupt the neighbours, where actually if you walk up the side of it, you can't barely hear the waterfall. So you can actually have sort of like 6 foot and you can't really hear it. So we actually sort of like do a sound tour around the gardens. If people want to have the NRG to drown out a school noise or a motorway or something like that, then you can actually have water features to drown out the noise. Obviously an airport or something. If you're in the main path, then you're not going to have anything to compete. But at the same time, if you've got a school and you don't like the noise of the children, then you can have a water feature to drown out the noise. Or you can have something like the Zen Garden where it's completely silent, but you've got that flowing silent water. But on the side of this, then the noise reduces. You can still hear. But when you get to about here, you can hear that noise just dissipate. So it's sort of like 6 foot away, and you're not in that echo chamber. The verbena's looking really good at the moment with the bees and the bumblebees. Great for wildlife. These ones have actually self-set, so you can see them all self-seeding, and we just pull them out of the walkway so you can actually interact with this water feature. When kids come, they love this pool because obviously they can take their shoes and socks off and paddle around in here. And one of the reasons why John designed it for the walkway across is so you can interact with it. You can get up close, you can get personal, and you can have a play. Should we go and have a look at some more koi?
Let's go for it.
So what we've got here is we've got the koi palace. We've got a fence that goes around it to stop otters from getting in here. So this pond's 100,000 litres of water. We've got a lot of fish in here. As you can see that there's a lot of Shusuis. I'm a bit Shusui mad. We've got a chagoi that's still recovering a little bit from natural spawning. You can see that there's still some more babies in there from last year's spawning. We actually removed a lot of the eggs this year. But we've got a number of personal fish in here that I've had for 15-20 years, and we've got new ones that we bought and we've just literally shipped in this year. So some of the fish have been in the pond just since May. Get some food.
Absolutely cracking fish. Gorgeous shower. Lovely Deutsche cheaper. Yellow Shusui.
Yeah, there's 27 Shusuis in here.
Only 27.
Yeah. Nine big ones.
I like the yellow one. It's different.
It's cool, isn't it? It's funny how all of these, the dog's just gone for a walk, but they do literally, they hang off of her ears. She's got a number of places she walks around. She knows exactly where the wall is. I've got an air curtain that runs around with the wall on that. But she sits on this wall quite often, so she'll walk down, go down those steps and walk all along here and just sit on the edge. And the fish will literally pull off and hang off of her ears. She doesn't actually go swimming unless I get in there. If I get in there, then she sort of like gets the confidence that she loves it.
Yeah.
Last year I went in there for it was a really hot day and to interact with and feed some of the fish. And literally it was a case of I was trying to encourage the koi to come over because it was a brand new pond last year, and literally the dog comes in, jumps in behind me, and sort of like she wants to swim with the fish, but she just loves it. So she's got a number of different places. But as you can probably see, that these fish are very, very relaxed.
Oh, yes.
What we've got is we've got a very natural environment, and certainly we've got lots of rocks and gravel and stuff on the bottom of the pond, so we keep the same philosophy. Essentially what we're doing is we're drawing the water from one place, and that's the intake bay over there. So you can see the swirling intake bay. All of the water is pulled across the surface, so you're essentially drawing all the water to one place. So if I want to remove any mechanical waste with a net, I can corral it from one area. As you can see, a lot of the free swimming space, it's very, very clear. There is bits that the koi have pulled off, and you'll notice that there's blanket weed where the fish can't get. So there's a bit of blanket weed down here, but it's natural, it's part of the ecosystem. I actually like the blanket weed because it removes that, pollutants from the water. Going back to the wetland, rather than pulling from the bottom, it pulls from the surface. So the most highly oxygenated water is actually feeding the biological side, and the biological side is over here in the wetland filter. Careful how you tread. But essentially this is the biological stage. You see a dragonfly, that's a large, I can't see, I think that it might be a four-spotted chaser. If it is, it will come and land. But essentially this is the biological stage. So again, going back to low maintenance, I've cleaned this out once only, and that was last year, because literally it was a case we did a lot of construction work. So if you don't want to look after the water, it's sort of like, this is the sort of like the system that you want to put in place. You do need a big, huge footprint. So if you think about a traditional koi pool, then you have lots of like traditional drum filters and chambers, and all sorts of different ways to process, and they require a lot of attention. A lot of people just want no maintenance. They just want to feed the fish, have a glass of wine or a beer at the end of the day, feed the fish, and that's it. And this is sort of like the system, but you do need a real big system. The minimum size that we would recommend for koi is 5 meters by 3 meters on an ecosystem pond with a wetland filter. But this will take microns, 1 micron. As you can see, it's all crystal clear water, but essentially it's a huge, great big wetland. It is oversized for the amount of fish that we've got in here. We could probably double the amount of fish in here from the size of the filtration. I feed about 1.5 kilos a day manually. We don't have an automatic feeder in here. We do have a lot of people, and I just love feeding the fish. So it's my personal thing. I'm happy when I'm feeding fish. The fish can swim into here as well. So it's a bit of a dull day, it's a bit of a cool day. They're not necessarily in here, but at the same time as they will come in. Charlie boy might come in because we're sort of like standing here, so you might see him come across, but he might turn around. No, it's too cool. So if you think of how shallow this water is at the moment, the fish can come in if they want. If it's a super hot day, they'll come and sit here and sort of like sunbathe. They'll just come and sit in here and sort of like just chill out. And there's no better place in the Pond College garden than lying in there on a hot day, because you've got dragonflies, you've got fish swimming around. You see the whirligig beetles. I don't know if you're picking them up.
Yeah. Funky little things, isn't they?
So essentially what you've got in an ecosystem pond is you're building it for everything. You've got the wildlife. The fish are sort of like the orcas or the great whites, and they have the sort of like the big swimming zone. But then you have the sort of like the barrier reef, wherever the fish can't get. As you can see over there, the fish can't get up onto those stones. So that's why that blanket weed is growing over there. But I like it because then the dragonflies can deposit the eggs. The southern hawker female will come and deposit the eggs in that blanket weed, and the fish won't get in there and eat the dragonfly larvae. So there's different zones. So it's like a great barrier reef with the sharks in the deep swimming zone. But what I really sort of like appreciate the fish is the natural behaviour. When you've got rocks and gravel on the bottom of the pond, the fish keep them clean. The fish keep them, it's not a huge amount of gravel in the bottom of the pond. It's sort of like a heavy salt and pepper dusting on the bottom of the floor, but the fish turn it over, so it's not full of muck, it's not full of waste. Yes, it's not sterile, it's not a sterile system. There is a lot of waste in here, there's a lot of anaerobic conditions, but at the same time that helps with the filtration. It's a different thing. The way that I sort of like educate people is these are sort of like free range koi. So it's like intensely farming chickens. You can have fish farming conditions where you have a lot of fish, and this is more like free range. I'm not too worried about the odd scale getting knocked off. you know, I'm not showing these fish. You know, some of them are show quality, but at the same time is it's their natural behaviour. Lots of rocks, lots of gravel. You know, like I was saying earlier, Charlie's had a very, you know, she's suffering at the moment from a natural spawning. You know, she got up on some of the rocks. She's got some scales missing, but at the same time, as it's a case of I've done some scrapes, not found anything on them, but yeah, I'm just keeping an eye on her.
She's a big old fish though, isn't she?
Yeah, 83 centimetres. She's on her right eye. It's a bit of the sort of like the lens is popped out, so she's quite a unique fish. But she's off the food at the moment, so she's not having a, you know, she's stressed about something. But all the rest are.
Spawning certainly takes it out of them.
It does, especially when it's natural. When you're stripping it, it's different. But you know, like they'll all come and hand feed. Or if I get in there, or if the dog gets in there, they associate the dog with food. But it's bonkers, you know, how they all have their different personalities. That's my finger. You see how much food I put on as well. It's sort of like,
they're not small pellets either, are they?
No.
6 mil?
no, these are 13, I think.
13, not bigger than anything I feed.
It's sort of almost like a dog food. But yeah, there's some big fish in here. So,
Oh, yes.
and the small ones, they actually they probably eat a lot of natural food. We do feed some small pellets, but I actually think that they eat the feces of the other fish. You know, the protein that goes through
Yeah.
the fish.
Quite possibly. The fish will eat anything they can fit in their mouth.
Yeah. You see now I can see that they've had enough.
Absolutely amazing. I'm sure a lot of the viewers will have some pond envy with this one.
And also they'll probably go, there's too many Shusuis in there. But this might, you know, this pond is my passion project. And I went out to Japan for the first time 2 years ago. And essentially, you know, I said to someone, I'm going out to Japan, and they said, well, what are you going to do if you buy a fish? And I said, I'm going to build it a palace. So I ended up building it a palace.
There you go.
And we've got we've got our longfin Shusui as well. You know, I know a number of people don't like the longfins, but I love Shusuis, and I love that longfin Shusui. We've got a couple of male Shusuis in here. Not that I've bred any. We've got some fry, and hopefully we'll have some Shusui fry, but I don't know. We'll see. You know, it'll be interesting, that's for sure. Again, it's just playing around. I'm not really commercially growing them. I'm not doing it. It's just more from a collect the eggs and play around with them. But you see, they're very relaxed fish. You know, they're even like it when I get in. It's a bit cool for me to get in today. But,
Yeah.
But certainly, it's a case of you know, some of them I can pick up out of the water and put them back, and they'll swim round and they'll come back to me.
They are beautiful, aren't they?
You spend hours. You know, I've had a long day yesterday training and doing some personal development stuff, and I just came back. I just came off of the gazebo, Rainwater.
Nearly got wet. Just had a big splash of water and
Came off the.
blown off the water go.
So yeah, came and had a beer with the fish. I wanted to really see and just keep an eye on Charlie Chaglin because I've been away for the day. I just wanted to keep an eye on her, keep her happy. That's what it's all about. But they'll just eat and eat and eat and eat.
How many fish are in here in total? Do you know?
I haven't. I know that there's a lot of Shusuis, but I would say, apart from the babies, I've no idea how many babies. You know, these brown, the brown ones. There's a couple of yellow ones in there. I would say probably 70, and the biggest is Charlie Chaglin at 83 centimetres the last time I measured her. but that was, you know, last year, so I don't really get it in there too much. We do sell some of the fish, but really, okay, they're all pets really, they're more show fish. But it's amazing to watch the Shusuis, how they develop, and you know, it's one of the first fish that I ever got, and they're all different, you know.
Yeah. It's not one the same in here, is there?
No, exactly. And again, the personality, you know, a lot of them do come and hand feed, but some of them, like Trinity, that one there, she doesn't really come too much close. You know, she'll stay away.
Yeah. I think every pond has got a fish like that. Mine's got a few.
Yeah. And then other ones, they, you know, as soon as you put your hand in, they'll come over and basically they'll just keep feeding. This one's a bit, you know, it's interested, but it's like, are you going to attack me? Where Shadow, I've had Shadow a long time. It's a very erratic fish, and Fizz. So those two are my original. So they're 19 years old. Those ones. And Charlie Boy, this one here, male. You can probably see a lot of spawning tubercles.
Yeah.
That's a real, you know, it's ready to go at any time. That's Fizz, the erratic one. But she's good, but she does scare a lot of the others, you know, when she's erratic like that.
Yeah.
So the amount of times where I've sort of like gone, am I going to remove her from the pond, you know, Fizz, because she's erratic and she does sort of like, you know, like make the others spook. You know, she comes over and sort of like just...
I have a Benny Kikikiri at home, one of the biggest in the pond, that does exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And,
but this one will just sit and just eat and eat and eat.
Mm-hmm.
And Simone Sorogoi, her brother, I used to be able to pick up out of the water and feed it pellets out of the water, and that was quite odd. But she'll just come along and just give you a kiss, you know, sort of like, and she's the one that sucks on Luna's feet, and where Fizz is very erratic, and she'll go over and the dog's like, ah! You know, she's scared of Fizz. That sun's coming out now, so you can see.
yeah. First bit of sunshine we've had today.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? We've got 4 pumps on this system, so we've got a lot of turnover, but it's not a huge amount. You can see that there's not a lot of flow, but essentially we've got 4 pumps. We've got 1 feed in the wetland, we've got 1 feed in the bowls, and a return jet over there. As you can probably see, there's a little bit of water coming in on that sort of like peninsula. We've also got one that feeds a load of jets, so underneath the bowls, where the bowls spill in, there's jets underneath the walls, and they basically push water in. The half sphere and the half large urn, and there's some jets underneath here, and then there's one over there. So that's why you can see Charlie, she's sat in the flow, so she's just quite happy just sitting there. She's got one fin clamped, but something's not quite right with her, bless her.
Like
just keeping her up, you know.
Yeah.
I'll probably give her a salt bath.
She's got plenty of time to rest now.
Yeah, and there's plenty of quiet places in the pond. You know, over near the crazy leg frog, she can just literally just sit there in the flow, and just chill out. And you know, so she doesn't have to keep swimming all the time against flow or whatever. There are spots where she can just sit, and as long as Luna doesn't come and startle her, then yeah, she can have a quiet time. But yeah, you see Trinity doesn't really come and doesn't get to the food in time. It's just quite, you know, it's like, so we have to make sure that they get food.
Yeah.
And Charlie Chaglin, she doesn't like a lot of fish around her. It's just like teenagers, you know, they all like fighting for the food, where we make sure that she gets fed, but at the moment she's not interested. So something's going on. When she first came in from Japan, she was off the food, and all she would eat was prawns and the white hikari food.
Yep.
You know, the real expensive got apricot oil and loads of different ingredients, and that was, so it was sort of like expensive taste, and I'm like, and then it spawned 2 days later, so we knew that it was hormonal. And then, you know, I was like, wow, a fish that's got to this size that it's finicky on food, but she was ready to spawn. So she's a very funny fish. Turn it on and it flashes.
Heron scarer.
So this is laser guard, and you'll see in a second lasers will come on, and a green laser comes. So I've just switched it on. It keeps you see the lasers now turning like a disco, and then it will make a noise of some description. You can turn it to make no noise, but essentially, you know, we have it as noise. We've got a pair of herons that come round, and then it rotates. So that noise at one stage, and then in a second it might be barking dogs. But essentially that makes stuff move. Another good thing about herons is a talk show radio or something like that. You know, if you've got some noise, then they don't really like that. But when you've got baby fish in here, and that's what they're after, is the babies. They're not too worried about the big ones, as you know. It's more the otter. But yeah, it doesn't half make a racket, and it will go off again. It'll go off again in a second because I'm moving around. It's motion sensor, and then it'll pump out a different sound. But they're really good. It's the best thing that I've found to scare a heron away. So we put in a lot of fish caves underneath the deck. There's a huge area underneath the deck where the fish can get underneath. But essentially that's just going to scare anything away, providing it gets picked up. It's a different sound again.
Well, I like the idea of that.
Yeah, it is really good. Sometimes it's annoying when you're out here, so you can just literally just turn a dial and switch it off, and then you're okay. As long as you do something. If you come in with the food, you put your keys down or something by it to make sure that you switch it back on. You know, like that's what I've always found. Whenever we go to someone's house, we switch it off because it annoys us because we're setting it off all the time. But as long as you put your keys or something by it, then you know that, you know, if you go to move or drive away, then my keys are there, then you know you've got to switch this back on. So
good idea.
When we leave, then you've got to take something, or your coffee or whatever.
Yep.
Oh, there's another. So these used to be waterfall boxes, so you might have seen these being put in. So this was part of the waterfall competition before we moved all of the stuff. And you've got a small stack slate urn, then you've got an extra small and a real micro. So that's the smallest one, then the next size up, and then that's actually called small. They come from the States, but for the UK market you've got a number of different small ones, and you can also add a fire element if you want, like a tiki torch, which will last about 4 or 5 hours. So what we're actually doing is, here, if I get my way, we're going to have a sauna. So then we can get in the sauna, or somewhere to change. When people want to get in, it's like a farm, as you know. So it's sort of like, the problem is it's getting in and getting out. You know, it's a long way from the hub, and there's gravel and, you know, concrete. So having a sauna here, and then you'll be going natural swimming all the time, and it's big enough to swim. The fish don't mind it too much, and I say to anybody that does get in, as long as you don't mind me doing what you do to the fish, then I haven't got a problem with it. If you chase them, if I chase you, have you got a problem with me if I scare you, have you got a problem with that? And just respect the fish, and they will respect you. They will come over, they won't hurt you, they haven't got, you know, the teeth are right down in the back of the throat. They might try and rip your finger off, or they might pull on your clothes, but, you know, they're not, they're just investigating you, really. But it's great fun to get in there. You know, if you've never got in with koi, they're definitely fascinating creatures, and they've all got their own personality, like I say. Let's go and have a look at the big adult sandboxes. So part of what we do here at Pond College is essentially we train, it's an inspiration and education place. We do supply a lot of the kit, and people need sort of like somewhere to do a hands-on experience. So we're one of the only leading companies for hands-on experiences. So essentially 2 weeks ago we had a guy from South Africa, lives in Norfolk, wanted to have a go. So essentially he put this pond in, and he put that tiny little pondless waterfall in just to have a go. He came for I think 4 days, and he just essentially did it in 4 days. So you can come and basically have a go in the sandboxes. Whether you want one-to-one tuition, we do one tuition by the hour or half a day, and then if you want a full day, then we can split, you know, but most people go for sort of like half a day or a couple of hours. I want to learn how to do a skimmer box, so then what we do is we basically get a skimmer and we cut out and we show you how to put in a skimmer, or it might be how to do a biofalls. We can do those in sort of like an hour training. We also do technical seaming, so if you want to glue liner together like your box welded liner, you know, we can do technical seaming. We also do strap-in boulders, so if you want to learn how to use a machine safely and using a strap to lift the boulders into place, we do that. So there's a number of different courses that you can come and do, from all the way down from a micro fountain all the way up to technical seaming and lifting boulders.
Sweet.
Another thing that we did, we have a huge event every March. It's a bit cold for consumers, but a lot of people come from all over Europe. We had this guy came from Slovenia, so he's a contractor out there, and Urban won, I think, artist choice. So all of the artists get to vote on each individual aquatic art box. We also have people's choice. We also have best illumination, and Urban won best illumination and an artist choice. So all the artists choose, and then, you know, that's the award. And also we have the Pond Advisor invitational overall champion that the judges decide. And this year we had we had 3 guys from America and myself, and it's the judging panel. And part of Aquatic Art Live is we rebuilt and we did a lot of the cosmetic work around the wetland filter. So we always do a practical, and we also do business classes as well. So it's like build upon business day or seminars, you know, like a marketing class. We had a class on best business practices. We had one on lead generation. We also had one on CapCut, which is sort of like a video short format sort of like marketing thing.
Yeah.
So we have a number of different things. So all of the aquatic art boxes have essentially got a theme and a story. This one was my guy Luke, and the little terracotta features he made into water features, and the story was he moved into his first house. These terracotta animals were in the garden, so essentially he brought them in and made them into a water feature. He actually bust the neck off the turtle, so we had to put foam all around the turtle. But this actual top section is my favourite waterfall out of all of the features that were built this year. So this bit is very, very natural, and then when it gets further down here, it's a lot different. It's a different feel. So this was really what sort of like let him down a little bit, but at the same time want to focus on the good. That's the best waterfall. From a feedback point of view, I said if you could have elevated the whole thing like Freddy's over here, you can see Freddy's is a lot more higher. This one here has got the maximum sort of like flow. If Luke could have elevated it like this, it would have been a lot better. This one here, the mystery item or the story is a skeleton. And Freddie from Eco Skateboarder Gardens, he basically said, Mark, I haven't got a mystery item, just give me one like you've done in the past. And I said, well, what about a skeleton? And I said, you can use whatever you want. What about just the skull? And he was like, yeah, whatever. So what he actually made it into is he made it into me. If I upset Charlotte, that's how I'll end up. So yeah, so Freddie won the best innovation award. So essentially the best use of or the best story, and also he had the most flow. Not that that was a category. This one is one that we're stripping down So essentially a case of different type of look and feel. We've got a number over there that are empty. So we talked about it earlier. If you want to come and have a go in the sand, or if you want to come and have a go in the waterfall, make a video and see how, what experiences you find. We have a self-evaluation sheet, so it's like a lot of people build a waterfall and go, Mark, what do you think? And it's sort of almost like, what I need to do is I need to think, where are you at in your sort of like building? Is this your first one? Because then it's different. But what I want to do is I want to encourage you and focus on the good until then. It's sort of like then you're ready for the feedback. And essentially, to start with, as long as it holds water, then you're ticking a lot of the boxes. But we do have a self-evaluation sheet all the way from sort of like meeting the client's brief, meeting the business's brief, or the artistic point. So if you want to just look at the artistic elements, what makes it, how it's, so yeah.
Sweet.
So if you want to come and have a play, then
Definitely.
we've got the space. And what I want to do with the boxes is essentially remove the customer, because sometimes you've got to fill the customer's brief with the art boxes. It's like, take the customer away, you can do whatever you want. The worst that's going to happen is if you hurt yourself or it leaks. And this one's leaking, so we're having to rebuild this and play around. But when you build something that leaks, you learn from it, and other people learn from it as well.
Absolutely.
And also flow rates. When you bring the pipe work down, it's like you use the same size pump, but the flow rate is different. If you put in too many, as you probably know, too many 90-degree bends, it adds a foot of head pressure, or roughly. Some, depends on the size of the pump, depends on the pump, but and the pipe. But essentially, if you think about a 90-degree bend, if you think of the best way that I describe it on the channel is, if you think of a racing car, it's got to slow down to go round a bend. So if you can sweep it, as you know, if you sweep the bend, you can go round faster with a racing car. So, and if you can just have a gentle curve, then you can go really fast around it. So that's why we use a lot of solvent weld flexible pipe rather than the solid rigid stuff with 90s, because that is a sort of like a hairpin turn.
And that is exactly what I did on both of my ponds to save on 90s, sweep it round. I did exactly that on both ponds.
45s or whatever, and it's just so much better. You're still paying for the same amount of electric, you just get more flow. And essentially you can enjoy it. That's you can add elements like this one here. It's a small sphere. And this is sort of like creating, is the story behind it, is it's sort of like the sphere is Mother Earth, and then you've got other bits and pieces around it. If you look closely, you get the occasional drip coming through underneath that, and it's got a real good there you see the sort of like the drip, and that's the sort of like the aquatic art that a lot of people miss. I would actually turn it up a little bit, but we can tweak it all the time. But you just look at it's a different feeling, a different element again. And then we come on to the team build, sort of like the Pond College Gardens. They're sort of like 8 foot by 8 foot areas, and these are team builds. So 2 people, 6 to 8 hours, and essentially you can go from sand to this, and different elements. So these guys are from Elevate Ponds. And Luke won this competition. The mystery item was the pot of gold, and you can see the lights. So that little pot was essentially something that I gave him, or allocated the box when he chose this box. Then that became the mystery item. This one, we've got the little kayaker that I've just stood up because probably Luna's knocked it over. These guys are based in Leeds. So we've got contractors all over the country, all the way up from to Scotland, all the way down to Kent and Cornwall. So these guys had a mini kayaking guy. So the story was that the owner was a kayaking enthusiast, and we basically gave him the little kayaker to incorporate into the feature. And then these guys from Northamptonshire, and the mystery item was the elephant, and you can see the elephant in the feature there. So exactly the same size pump, exactly the same footprint, exactly the same amount of water in the basin, and you can see completely different stone, different style, and you know, these haven't been done any. We haven't done anything really. As you can see, there's weeds, you know, growing. But what's the definition of a weed? It's a plant in the wrong place. So I know that these are weeds, and it's very easy to go in there and just pull them out. But at the same time, it looks really natural, so I'm not too worried about it. So very, very low maintenance. The maintenance it's not necessarily the water feature, it's the gardening around the water feature. So the actual, as long as you get the size of the basin right, and you want to be going for 2.5 times, 3 times the water in motion. So these basins are the Aqua Basin 45s. On the small aquatic art boxes, they're 100 litres. So you can have 33 litres of water in motion. So if you go over that, then you're going to run out of water from an evaporation point of view. So the one that's in the sandbox, that's on an Aqua Basin 30. So it does run out of water quite quickly when it's hot, because there's not enough water in the basin for evaporation. But you can see this is what they start with the aquatic art boxes. So essentially the same size space. 3 sleepers high, and then they've got the basin, same size pump, and so all of those different little art boxes, that's what you start with.
So what do you reckon, guys? Should Jamie, keeping it coy, come back and fill up a basin? Put a waterfall in one of them? Leave a comment down below, let me know what you think. So I have had an absolutely fantastic day. Obviously it's a great place to come and visit. Check out Mark's videos. Everything we've seen here today, he's done a video on. Building it, working on it, changing it. The little waterfalls we've all just seen, there are loads of videos. I'll put a link to my favourite one that I've probably watched 6 times, which is where the team's built a time-lapse of them 3 larger waterfalls that we've just seen. Absolutely brilliant. But what Mark's just offered and said for you guys is we've got some koi cards. So we're going to do a giveaway. Got 5 packs of koi cards to give away. Now what these are, they're not playing cards. These are little cards which Mark's managed to grab some that's out of a packet.
So they're essentially, it's like you've got the fish on one side, and then we all know it's a Shusui, and as you can see it's a Shusui and a little bit of information on there, but essentially you can have all of the pictures facing up, and you can test yourself and learn the different koi names. And it's a great way of just learning. They don't come in a box, so you can put a rubber band around them or keep them, but essentially you can have them all laid out and then go, right, which one? Or I could just shuffle them and then go, right, what's that? So what's that? What's that? What's that? And then, you know, they're not the best pictures, but at the same time as you've got a real good idea, and they've got all of the information on the back with the Japanese names and a little bit of information. So if you want to know what the fish look like, then
absolutely brilliant.
Chiba.
So yeah, we will think of an idea of something you guys can say in the comments to win a packet of koi cards. What a fantastic idea. Snap back to you all in a bizzle. So Mark's just come up with a fantastic idea. I have a question for you guys to win a packet of koi cards. I say there's 5 to give away, and I'll be posting them out to you if you get it right. So the question is, how many Shusui was there in the Koi Palace? The big pond we've just looked at, how many Shusui was in the Koi Palace? So to get that number, you have to go back and listen carefully. Back over at the Koi Palace, and there's some fish in the shallow end. They've come through their little cross bridge. We've got one of the gorgeous showers, or sankies. Sanky, I think. And one of the ghost koi.
Amazing, they all go in there. Even Charlie Chagrin goes in there when she's feeling, you know, it's
better.
only like 3 inches of water. Yeah, she does have to work really hard to get in.
Doggy's waiting to go for a swim.
Hey, what you doing? She's... That's good footage. She's not normally like that. That's funny. Like, what are you doing on the shelf?
She said, you made me wait.
Yeah.
Built up the suspense too much, didn't we?
Yeah.
Bet she makes a great heron protection as well, doesn't she?
Yeah. We'll go down those stones and then walk along here. Destroys my plants when she comes around. And then she'll just sit here.
As Bruce says, fish are friends, not food. So we're out the back of the pond college, and Mark's just been telling me for a bit of water drainage they've built themselves a completely natural, and it's no liner in this pond, it's just a mud pond currently full of blanket weed, but it's run off for some of their ponds out the back there, because whilst digging some of the ponds they found a lot of old Roman drains, and this is somewhere for the no fish in this one. Well, might be a fish in there, you were saying, or two.
And it would be, we haven't stocked them, and we've purposely kept fish out. So if you think of fry, you know, rather than, you know, we don't cull any of the fish, we give them away. But you know, I've obviously thought about putting baby koi in here or something. But I want it really to be more for wildlife, newts, dragonflies,
Yeah.
Skaters. But if we put carp in here, then it will turn into a muddy, you know, mud puddle.
As demonstrated by the
yeah.
doggy.
Not that I have a problem with it, as long as it is for that purpose. But we will be extending this. We will be putting in a bigger one out here. That's the sort of like the plan. So how it all started was when we were digging the koi palace, we went through 4 Roman drains, and essentially we needed a lot of water as well to pump into the koi palace, you know, rather than the hose pipe going in. So we were pumping groundwater in. So essentially, as far as the digger would reach, so 12-foot deep hole, and it stayed up for the whole of the year. So this year we were repairing the bank and sort of like back, you know, enclosing the garden again, because we basically brought the machine out this way and we piled up a load of soil. I was like, well, let's just make it a little bit bigger, and it stayed up really nice. You see the black pipe over there. We've got a pump on the outside of the pond, and we can pump water, groundwater, from underneath the pond. So if you ever get a situation where there's clay in a garden and it naturally fills up like this and just sits there, it's a problem when you've got a liner, because it would just push the liner up. So having under pond drainage, which is essentially French drained underneath a pond liner, then you can pull it out, and as long as it goes out to air or a pump chamber, then you can pump it out, and that's what we've got essentially on the koi palace.
So yeah, massive thank you to Mark. That unfortunately is the end of the tour for you guys. I stayed for another 2 or 3 hours just chatting koi and ponds with Mark. Learned an awful lot while I was there. If you want to see me go back and have a go at building one of the waterfalls, then leave a comment down below, because I think that'd make... I'm going to go back and do it anyway, But if you guys want to actually see me building a waterfall, then yeah, leave a comment down below and I'll get some footage of me building a waterfall up there. So that should be good. And lastly, for your chance to win a pack of these koi cards, as I say, there's 5 to give away. You need to tell me, or tell me and Mark, how many Shusui there was in the Koi Palace. If you get the answer right, you'll be in with a chance to win a pack of these koi cards for learning or decoration, whatever you want to do with them. But yeah, massive thank you to Mark for having me. Really enjoyed the day. I learnt a lot, not just about koi and fish, but about business and other bits and bobs. Very, very, very knowledgeable chap. And yeah, just thank you so much for inviting me. Really enjoyed the day, really, really did. Hope you guys enjoyed it too. So on that note, guys, thanks all for watching. Like the video if you haven't already. Hit the bell and the subscribe button to see more content like that. And on that note, we will catch you on the next one.